Zip it, Miss Mudd snapped. I don't want to sit on this train for 2 hours listening to a couple of chatterboxes. She reached into her handbag for a book and flipped it open. Miss Mudd, have you ever heard of the Brothers Grimm? Daphne asked. The caseworker scowled and set her book on her lap. What is this nonsense? You've heard of the Brothers Grimm, right? Oh, yes. Huh? Wait a second. It seems to have lagged out. They wrote fairy tales, Miss Mudd said, dismissing Daphne with a wave of her hand. Daphne shook her head. That's what most people think, but it's not true. The Brothers Grimm didn't write fictional stories. They recorded actual events. Their book is full of things that really happened. It's so the rest of us can learn about ever afters. Sabrina was shocked. Daphne was spilling the family secret to the worst possible person. They couldn't trust Smart any further than they could throw her. What an ever after, the caseworker snapped. That's what fairy tale characters like to be called, the little girl explained. Fairy tale character is kind of a rude term. It implies that they aren't real, and like I was saying, the Brothers Grimm wrote about real events. Snow White is real. She ate a real poison apple. Cinderella, Prince Charming, Robin Hood, they're all real and they live in Fairyport Landing. The Queen of Hearts is the mayor. Sleeping Beauty is dating her uncle. Miss Mudd peered closely at Daphne. Debbie, I hope they make straight jackets in your size. It's Daphne, she corrected. Please be quiet, Sabrina whispered in her sister's ear. Okay, kid, I'll bite. If fairy tale characters are real, how come I haven't met any? The caseworker asked. Because there's a magical wall that surrounds this town and keeps the ever-afters locked inside. Wilhelm Grimm and a witch named Baba Yaga built it to stop any other evil ever-afters from invading nearby towns. Of course, Smart said. She slapped her knee and let loose a loud, mocking cackle. A magical wall. They call it the barrier. The Brothers Grimm are our ancestors, and because of what they did, a lot of ever-afters don't like us, Daphne said. But, Daphne, stop. You've told her too much, Sabrina begged. Sabrina, I've got this, Daphne snapped and turned her attention back to Smart. As I was saying, we have a few enemies in Fairyport Landing, but we've got a few friends too. Suddenly, there was a tap on the window. Sabrina gazed out, expecting to see the Hudson River rushing past. Instead, she saw Puck. He was flying alongside the train, held aloft by his giant pink wings. He stuck his tongue out at her. Miss Mudd was horrified. She shrieked and tumbled onto the floor, scampering underneath her seat like a cockroach. Did you see that? Miss Mudd stammered. There's a boy out there, flying, outside the window. Puck flew off, disappearing from view. A moment later, the ear-shattering screech of tearing metal filled the air. Something sailed past the window and splashed into the Hudson below. It looks like part of a train door. Did the two of you plan this? Sabrina asked Daphne. Someone's got to think ahead in this family, she replied matter-of-factly. Seconds later, Puck strolled down the aisle with his wings fully extended. Well, look at me, saving your butts again. You know, you're kind of pathetic. He knelt down to peer at Smart. The woman shrieked in terror and tried to scurry even farther under the seat. What's she doing down there? He asked Sabrina. Hiding, I guess. Puck leaned close to Miss Mutt and said, too loudly for the cramped space, I found you, you're it. Get him away from me, Miss Mutt whimpered. Puck laughed and dragged the casewalker to her feet. Daphne stepped up to the trembling woman and patted her hand gently. It did little to calm her. She was speechless. Her jaw fell open over and over, and she couldn't stop staring at Puck's wings. This is goodbye, Miss Mutt, said Daphne. Wait, we can't go yet. We forgot the merciless kicking. That's my favorite part of the plan, Puck said. I vetoed the kicking, Daphne said. We're going to send Miss Mutt back home unharmed. Puck scowled. Party pooper? What plan? What on earth is happening here? Sabrina cried. Before she could get an answer, the train conductor's voice came over the speaker system. Next stop, Poughkeepsie. Daphne's face fell. Uh-oh. Puck blanched and his mischievous grin vanished. Uh-oh. Two uh-ohs? What's wrong? Sabrina cried, panicking and spinning around in search of a threat. What monster do we need to run from now? The barrier! Daphne shouted. Puck, run! Puck bolted, but it was too late. As the train passed through the invisible wall, he was knocked off his feet and sent sailing down the aisle. How do you stop this thing? Puck cried, flailing helplessly as he was pushed along the train by the unseen magic. Sabrina ran to the emergency brake cable and yanked it with all her might. The brake screeched and the train decelerated rapidly, causing suitcases and passengers alike to fly in every direction. Puck crashed into the steel door at the end of the car, knocking it off its hinges. His body kept skidding along the floor into the next car. He was going to crash into the next door, but not with enough force to break through. The barrier would slowly crush him before the train completely stopped. Sabrina looked around frantically for something to use to smash the door open. But when she looked back to Puck, the boy fairy had transformed into a full-size rhinoceros. He lowered his head just as his diamond-hard horn plowed through the next train door. He turned into a rhino, Miss Mutt said, finally regaining the ability to speak. Yeah, he does that, Daphne said, then grabbed Sabrina by the hand. Come on! The girls rushed after Puck, watching him blow through door after door and pushing past terrified commuters. Luckily, no one was injured, but many cowered behind copies of the New York Times, and Sabrina suspected that a few wet their pants. When the trio reached the last car, Puck crashed through its doors, tumbling out onto the tracks. The girls leaped to the ground after him. There was a crowd of people waiting to greet them. Uncle Jake, Granny Rhoda, Elvis, Goldilocks, Red Riding Hood, and the three bears were all standing at the side of the tracks. Puck quickly morphed back into his true form, but Sabrina barely noticed. There were two people waiting there who made her wonder if she was hallucinating. She blinked a few times and then looked to her grandmother, who was grinning widely. Henry and Veronica Grimm, her parents, waited with outstretched arms. Mom? Dad? She cried. Henry and Veronica rushed to the girls and scooped them up. Veronica peppered Sabrina and Daphne with kisses. Henry squeezed so hard Sabrina could barely breathe. She loved every second of it. Girls, their father choked. My dear sweet girls. But I thought our plan didn't work, Daphne said. It must have worked, Henry said. You know your father. He loves to sleep late, Veronica explained. Henry and Veronica stepped back to study their daughters. Girls, you look so different. her father said. Veronica held Daphne's face in her hand. You're so big. You've been asleep a really long time, Daphne said. Henry turned to Granny Rhoda with questioning eyes. How long? He asked. Nearly 2 years, the old woman said sadly. 2 years? Veronica cried. Sabrina's parents looked as if someone had punched them in the gut, the shock clear on their faces. That can't be true, Henry stammered. I'm afraid it is, Uncle Jake said. Henry turned to Goldilocks. What are you doing here? He asked. There's a lot to tell you, Granny Rhoda said. But what's important is we're together now, Sabrina said brightly, trying to shift everyone's attention back to the happy reunion. All the worries that had haunted her over the last 2 years evaporated. The incredible weight of being responsible for herself and Daphne lifted from her shoulders, and for the first time in years, she felt like a kid. Just in time to ruin Sabrina's happy moment, Miss Mudd scurried through the busted train door. She smoothed her gray suit and struggled with a broken heel on one of her shoes. She straightened as if mustering all of her strength. These children are wards of the state and they're coming with me, flying boy or no flying boy. Who is this woman? Henry asked. She's our caseworker, Sabrina explained. When you vanished, we were sent to live in an orphanage. She placed us with foster parents. Horrible, evil foster parents, Daphne said. She sent us to live with a man who was terrified of soap. Don't forget the family with the Bengal tiger living in their house, Sabrina said. And the guy who had us collect roadkill for his restaurant. Veronica grabbed Smut by the collar. Have you been mistreating my children? I did what was in the best interests of your brood, Smut sneered as she tried to break free. I think that what's in the best interest of my brood is for them to watch me knock you out, Veronica said. Are you threatening me? The caseworker gasped. Of course I am, Veronica replied. Smut finally broke free and scampered back up onto the train. We can't let her go. She knows everything. She'll go back to the city and tell everyone what she's learned, Sabrina said. Exactly, Daphne grinned. They'll think she's a nutcase. They'll either fire her or give her a straitjacket of her own. Sabrina was astounded. Daphne's idea was genius. It finally rid them of Smart and the orphanage forever. Actually, the little girl's plan was even better than anything Sabrina would have dreamed up. Okay, but we should probably get some forgetful dust on the other passengers, Granny Rhoda suggested. I suspect seeing a rhino on their morning commute has given them a serious case of the frights. You can't erase it from their brains. Freaking people out is my art, and I just created a masterpiece, old lady, Pop protested. I'm afraid we have no choice, Liebling, Granny Rhoda said. And when we're finished, we'll need to hurry home. There is so much to tell Henry and Veronica. Forget it, Mom, Henry said, taking his girl's hands in his own. We're leaving as soon as the girls are packed. Leaving? Granny cried. Sabrina and Daphne eyed one another in astonishment. Henry nodded. Yes, we're getting our ferryboat landing as fast as we can. Chapter 2. Big brother, this is... That seems to be the end of this video, and it'll probably be the last one for tonight as well. Anyways, goodbye.